Hello ratbags, it's me with another survival list. I've already shown you the 10 that I think are big or I'm really personally hyped for, but there's a whole bunch of other games that I was excited for as well, so I thought let's do another little video. These games are a little bit under the radar, or they've just been announced, or you've kind of forgotten about them since they were announced literally years ago. So here are 16 of the best indie survival games that I think could make a big impression in 2022. And a little plug, don't forget to go and subscribe to my second channel JCraft, where some of these cute and crafty survival games may be appearing a little bit more. Kicking off with an ultra realistic survival game set on the Scottish island of Skye. Incredibly small team doing this off their own back with not really much in terms of Kickstarter funding or anything like that. They aim to go into early access release in Q1 this year. And what they're going to launch with is a single player survival experience set with PvE in mind. But as they go down the road, they do plan to add multiplayer and then eventually some sort of PvP component. Builders out there, you will like some of the choices you've got, but if you're not massive on that, you'll also be able to have pre-built buildings as well. You'll have to use the stars at night to help guide you and fight off against the usual types of creatures like wolves and bears as you progress with a little bit of Viking influence. And that's where this is set, in the Viking period. You are washed up upon the shores of Skye, and now you've got to survive against the elements, the inhabitants and the wildlife. A hardcore, ultra-realistic survival game set in a beautiful world. If you go and take a look at their Instagram, full of stuff showcasing what amazing work they're already doing. But the negative in me says this game can't be made by such a small team in such a short space of time, especially with the kind of release date they're looking at early this year. So hopefully they can delay it, put as much more time into their early access release as possible. Salt 2 is a sequel to a survival game made a good few years ago with exactly the same team, but with maybe bigger ambitions now and fully realising some of their dreams. The first game didn't make huge waves, but it did have a bit of a cult status, and now hopefully Salt 2 can build on that. Procedurally generated infinite world with pirates that you'll go and fight, as well as hopefully in the future multiplayer, but not for a while until they've gone through early access a little bit. That kind of leads me to the negative. I feel like this game has to have co-op at the start with early access. So many of these games now rely on you having fun, and any game that's going to kind of bring or remind people of Sea of Thieves, it has to have that multiplayer component with it. The best things I like about this game is the colourful art style, the fact that the procedurally generated nature should offer lots of replayability, and the idea that you can customise and do a lot more than you could in the first game. Finding unique loot, weapons, as well as obviously customising your ship, that's what I'm really interested in. So hopefully they can get this right. They're planning a spring release after a small but successful Kickstarter campaign last year. Fingers crossed they can make good on all the stuff they want this time. One of the most newest announced Forever Skies will launch in early access as a single player experience as you go around a apocalyptic Earth trying to get resources while hopefully upgrading and expanding your airship. Eventually they do want to bring in 4-player co-op, as you're pretty much tasked with finding a cure for some sort of mysterious illness that may have wiped out Earth's inhabitants. What I like is the technological mix with the survival, not just using a pickaxe, you've got something that can literally obliterate and create like a 3D renderer gun. The setting is unique. What I'm kind of worried about is it'd get very repetitive and boring just running around skyscrapers. Is it going to be Subnautica but in the skies? I do like the sound of being able to customise an airship rather than just a regular standard base, and I hope that the dangers beneath maybe this clouds could be interesting. Made by former Dying Light devs, PC early access and then consoles in the future. I like all types of survival games. They don't have to be first person or PvP, nor ultra realistic. Give me a nice cartoony vibe that's got lots of crafting, lots of exploration, and I'm guessing it's going to remind me a little bit of Don't Starve, and I am there. Deep crafting, lots of combat with zombies and all sorts of creatures, and maybe some RPG mechanics thrown in. It's also going to be coming to console at some point as they hit their stretch goals. I'm very much looking forward to this. The negatives, I guess it's a single player game only, so that may be a bit of a downer. It would have been nice to maybe run around a colourful world with my pals. According to my Kickstarter pledge, the beta will be available to play in May, so I'm guessing at some point over the summer we might actually get a release into early access. Wonderlost could be the more fun survival game you're looking for this year. Outpost Glacier could be the mashup of Satisfactory and maybe Subnautica that you've always wanted, and hopefully it's going to get some sort of release this year. It's been worked on for 2 years already with a free playable demo on the itch.io site. It's come a long way. I've been following this one, eagerly anticipating some sort of release, and I'll probably put it in about 10 other list videos over the last 2 years. But the mix of crafting and that automation, as well as getting systems ready or fighting off big scary snow creatures, I'm totally down for. The negatives, I guess they're a very small team. They do update a little bit with certain content coming our way, but they could probably do with ramping it up a little just to make sure that everyone knows the game is still on its way. They just moved into some offices though recently, so it looks like it is full steam ahead for this co-op survival experience. Every survival tuber under the sun has played this in the last few years, so fingers crossed this is the year that everyone gets a chance to try the full experience. Is it a survival game? Is it an MMO? Is it a Studio Ghibli kind of homage? Maybe all three of them in bitcraft. Got announced and maybe not much info else was released, but supposedly it's had some closed technical tests that began in December, and hopefully we're going to get more news about what this entails during this next few months. It's hard to pinpoint exactly what this game is. It says on its website it's got strategic elements as you try and build up basically your own empire, from small towns to large cities to maybe multiple cities that one person may end up being in control of. With maybe less focus on PvP directly, looks like they're trying some other unique ways to have that strategy in the game. Gathering, crafting, making sure you're finding rare loot and materials, all while interacting with other players. Seems like it's got a lot going on and some gorgeous visuals. The negatives, they again haven't released much info, and it's meant to be from a fairly decent sized studio. So hopefully we'll see more of this coming in the future, and hopefully it can keep it from being a bit too sedate and boring if there isn't actual any PvP. MMOs absolutely need good structures and good mechanics if they don't have that massive player interaction that you normally get with PvP. Like I said, it doesn't always have to be hyper realistic and so serious. Maybe survival games can be a bit of fun, and what's more fun than you being an alien as you go and shoot other aliens or possibly humans, abduct them, maybe do some kind of probes. That's what Drake Odds Survive is promising. And yep, that's negative there, it's the name. I kind of hope they really change it. I feel they could do something a bit more catchy. I do like the sounds of this one though, something that's not so serious. It does promise to have all the base building and all the PvP exploits that you've seen in other games like DayZ or Rust, and just with a little twist that your spaceships can help you maybe do some of that work. It's got vehicles in it, it's got proper base building in it, and of course PvP as you unlock new abilities to wage war maybe on each other or on the Earthlings. This game really has got some unique stuff in it. Supposedly you'll be able to take over Earthlings or even other creatures and use them as spies to see what's going on in the world around you. The premise is fun, it's interesting. Let's just hope the actual shooting mechanics and the rest of it does actually work a bit more seriously. In development a while, no release date set, but hopefully at some point in 2022. I'm usually complaining about more zombies in survival games, but when the setting is maybe a bit different, I can tolerate the Zeds. This is Above Snakes, and it's a survival crafting builder game with some roguelike elements. You'll basically go around these procedurally generated tile sets, gathering resources, building up your base and farmsteads, and then hopefully not coming across too many zombies as you try and get more and more advanced materials. It's a great premise, I love the art style, it's pretty unique and different, and absolutely adds a little bit more replayability having this procedural system. At its best, it reminds me of Forager, which I thought was a fantastic game. At its worst, I guess it could be just still a bit too routine with the Zeds. But it's very popular, it's just hit its backing already after being on Kickstarter only a week, and I got a chance to show it off a few weeks ago. I wouldn't expect an early access release until at some point later, maybe in winter time this year. Another game I got a chance to show off a good few months ago, it's got a free demo on Steam right now. Planet Crafter has you basically turning a red dusty planet into something luscious and green if you find the right resources and build up your farm and terraforming base. Progress has been going really well. They seem to have been adding content to the demo that's available, and I think they've only just stopped now to get ready for their full proper early access launch, hopefully at some point later this year. Imagine Subnautica, but with more emphasis on repairing a damaged world, and obviously a lot less water. Exploring wreckages, finding resources, and hopefully making this planet something that you want to live on in the future. I guess the negatives are, it could be a little bit boring without maybe too much other creatures or enemies to fight against, as it does seem more of like a planetary explorer at the moment, but hopefully they can add some sort of danger element to it rather than just simply crafting and farming. If not, it will certainly be a relaxing way to survive on a planet instead of just the usual stuff. You won't have to wait long to try it yourself, supposedly Q1 coming up very soon this year, and out of a lot of the games I've seen, they've come a long way in a short space of time, so I'd be confident that they'd be able to keep up content if they did enter early access that soon. Derelicts is a game that only just caught my attention recently but has been developed for a good while, and it is going to be a solo or co-op focused survival game. You're returning to Earth to fight off against mutated possible humans in a radiated landscape that is maybe starting to be habitable again. Lots of automation, lots of crafting, base building, and some pretty unique features like grapple hooks as well as your own pet doggo. I am absolutely loving the look of this one, and it definitely caught me by surprise once I started researching it. The negatives, it has got a big focus on power and generating sort of energy, and hopefully you don't get too bogged down with that where every 2 seconds your generators are running out. But there's some really unique crafting options. Even if a lot of the ideas have been borrowed, there's actually a whole bunch of fresh stuff in here as well, and that combination is really promising to be something special. No release date as of yet, but 33,000 wish lists already in only a short space of time of a week or so being up on Steam. Look out for this one, a big hit in the future. Maybe you really don't like cute and crafty games. Well, don't worry, a lot of these games will be on my second channel, JCraft. Mostly, I really like the look of this one, Lightyear Frontier, where you control a mech and it's pretty much Stardew Valley. Yes, you'll be setting up your own farm, gathering resources on a gorgeous, beautiful planet, and you can play it with your friends. And good news, this is coming to Xbox as well as PC, looking likely to be some game preview program joint launch, hopefully at some point later this year. Colourful, vibrant, expect lots of automation and farming. I guess the negatives could potentially be it just isn't interesting enough in terms of that danger element, which I think a lot of you guys really want in survival games. Can there be any other type of survival game involving dinosaurs in the future, since Ark has pretty much monopolised it? Maybe, if you make it more interesting in terms of survival, you against the world, and maybe not just a mating simulator. Gona wants to focus on you surviving against the dinosaurs rather than riding them or fighting with them against others. It's all about avoiding camouflage, crafting, and getting your way through a story. You've been left on this strange island, and now you've got to find out exactly what happened to the mysterious inhabitants, as well as maybe your own mother. So think more along the lines of Green Hell, but with dinosaurs rather than actually Art Survival Evolved, and that's good news to me. I do have to say, when I first saw this a few years ago, I really didn't like a lot of the graphics or the animations. I thought they were way too basic, but it seemed like it was just a proof of life kind of concept demo. Since then we've seen a few gameplay shows on other YouTube channels, got a chance to show it off, like Game Edge, and they got picked up by an actual proper publisher. So that has meant a delay in early access, but hopefully now does mean that there's more quality going to be applied, and we should hopefully see some news of a release in the future. The story, the setting, the mechanics of the game sound all good. Let's just hope some of the cutscenes have improved over that time. I am picking at you. Risk of Rain was a pretty cool looking game, so what if you mix that with some Don't Starve, and that's what you got with Wild Planet. Another one that I've been checking in with regularly over the last couple of years. I really like the look of this one, and I'm hoping it can fulfill a release date at some point. A multiplayer game, obviously survival, where you go around on distant lands trying to survive against aliens while you build up your bases. The unique factor comes in that you may have a bit of a roguelike where you die, eventually your ruins of your base may be left there for future generations to discover or loot. I think the art style's cute. I think if it's fun playing with your friends, diving into strange caverns and cave systems to get loot, fighting off bugs, and obviously traversing weird and wonderful biomes could be really cool. The negatives, I guess, it could be just a little bit too top down for some people, and maybe the graphics aren't going to float everyone's boat, but I like this kind of thing, and I'm hopeful we're going to get some news soon. Okay, so I'm pretty sick of zombies in survival games, but if they're done well, I can just about forgive it. Fractured Veil is promising a unique open world survival game with you, your friends, and possibly some PvP as well, set in gorgeous landscapes, all the while smashing some Zeds or mutants' heads in. I had the chance to talk to the lead developer of this game a good while ago, and it had some really interesting things to say. Could some of them ideas be just a bit too big for the type of game and the type of developers that are making this? Maybe, but I'm still very intrigued and I'm hopeful we're going to see some sort of release after a successful Kickstarter campaign last year. Rust versus Dead Island? That's what Fractured Veil says to me. If games like that all get you down a bit too much, then how about a peaceful meditation building survival game? Retreat to Enen is exactly that. Set in the far, far future where you have technology that can pretty much create and make all sorts of habitats for you to build and bases, but you have got to survive in some sort of jungle area as well as various other biomes, gathering, hunting resources, you get the deal. I really like the UI and the interface of this stuff. Again, it all boils down to how interesting these mechanics can be if there isn't enough danger. A single player or co-op experience hopefully arriving soon, judging by what their Steam page is saying. The premise of story is different enough, and then throw in the meditation, we'll have to see how this one plays out, but it's definitely intriguing. Finishing off with the Serpent Rogue. I really like the look of this one. I love the art style, and again I love the story and the setting. You are pretty much going to be tasked with getting rid of some sort of blight that's threatening to take over this land. You'll be gathering resources and ingredients to make potions and being able to tame all sorts of creatures or bring them under your control as you fight these kind of Stranger Thing enemies. Another one I've followed for a good couple years now, and they got picked up by Team 17, so it's looking likely to arrive on consoles and PC very soon. Its negatives, I guess, it's not really a strict open world game with more stages or areas that you'll be able to go in and come out with and hopefully not die in a kind of roguelike atmosphere, but I love the idea of having minions that you'll be able to control or possibly even transform into as you battle harder and deeper mythological creatures. Very much looking forward to this one, and I'm expecting this maybe in the early part of the year. And that is it. That is 16 of the survival games that I am kind of looking forward to, beyond what I've already spoken about and the big ones that you kind of all know about. Was there any I should have included? Let me know, and I'll see you at bags later.